There have been two people who have helped me in my discernment process. One of them is my spiritual director, Sister Carol Ann. I had moved to Washington State on the West Coast, and I was looking for a spiritual director, and somebody had recommended Sister Carol Ann. And she was the first person that I really felt comfortable with saying that I had always wanted to be a sister. And she very quickly introduced me to my vocation director, Sister Christine Still, and I met Sister Chris at our Come and See retreat. And it was at that retreat that I was able to answer all of the questions that I had about the sisters. How did they live? What did they pray from? And just meeting these two women, they fostered my discernment process for me.
My experience was a little bit different. I had been in religious life many years ago, and in that discernment process, there weren't nearly as many helps available. So in this experience, there have been many different people as well as events. I was fortunate enough to teach at the Catholic High School of Baltimore with the Sisters of St. Francis about 15 years after I started teaching. And I was there about 9 years and thoroughly enjoyed the experience. And I realized it was primarily due to the sisters there, their dedication, their simplicity, their joy in every day. And it sort of rekindled in me an interest in religious life. And the companion program that the sisters have started while I was there, so I joined that. And that's enabled me to maintain contact with the sisters over the years. I also became friends with one of the sisters I worked with, so we've stayed in touch over the years, and that's led me to where we are today.
The resources that helped me in my discernment process was when I started meeting with my vocation director, Sister Chris. She gave me a discernment booklet, and in it, it had scripture passages and questions relating to discernment. So it was really helpful for me to pray and reflect on these questions. And since having entered the Sisters of St. Francis, I've been able to attend workshops on Franciscan discernment. And it's been wonderful to learn about the lives of St. Francis and Clare and how they approached discernment in their own lives and saw Jesus as that model in the gospel to follow. And the one point that helped me in learning about Franciscan discernment is the idea that God is going to work with whichever choice you make. When you're faced in front of two good choices, sometimes it stops you from making that decision. But that idea that whichever choice you make, God's going to work through that was encouraging and freeing for me.
I had a similar experience. It's taking the opportunity to pray and think about and not feel that you're on a time schedule to meet someone else's expectation, and to stay in touch with the sisters, to stay in touch with the work of the community. All of these kinds of things broaden your understanding of the work of the sisters and the community, and enable you to see if you would be a fit there.
The main concern that I had when I was entering and discerning to become a sister is, what is the future of religious life? And one thing that really helped me was seeing how the sisters were so transparent, and that they were tackling those questions head on and asking themselves, what is our future? And one of the things that has been freeing for me is the idea of reframing the question, and instead of saying that religious life is diminishing, but that it's transforming into something new. And that's something that is scary, but also exciting, that we get to be a part of defining what the future of religious life will be.
Yes, and I guess that's very much true again for me, because having been in religious life before, just looking at the opportunities and the things that are available to us today. But in terms of challenges, I think for me, going through life after I had left religious life, a few family obligations and challenges came along, and I wasn't free to maybe explore the path of religious life again. And having the opportunity to do it now has been wonderful, and I treasure each day here.
The charism that attracted me to the Sisters of St. Francis of Philadelphia is the Franciscan charism, and being able to see the sisters draw from and pray from the rich spiritual tradition of St. Francis and Clare that's 800 years old was so enriching to my own spiritual growth. And one thing that St. Francis emphasized in his life is the idea of humility, and that he really treated every single person that he came across to as an equal. And something that I noticed when I first met the sisters was how they treated each other with love and respect, and it didn't matter if it was somebody who they had known for 50 years or a stranger who had just walked in the door. They treated everyone just so lovingly and welcome.
Yeah, I think simplicity is a key word. The sisters are welcoming in every situation. They're very real, down-to-earth individuals who live very Christ-like lives, and not in an artificial way, not in a holier-than-thou kind of way. There's always laughter around the Franciscans, and a good time, and it's just that shared inner vision that they have that makes their outward participation in whatever they're doing so wonderful. And Francis and Clare both gave that example in their early lives. And as you said, the 800 years of rich tradition enable you to have many things to draw from in today's world.
I've had many experiences that have led me to religious life, but the first thing that I would say is, regardless if you're feel called to the vocation of marriage or single life or religious life, to find and have a spiritual director. And being able to foster your relationship with God is so important, and being able to listen and to see where is God calling you is important in discerning that vocation. The second experience that was helpful for me was attending a come and see retreat, and not to feel pressured or afraid that the sisters are going to sign you up right away. It's literally a weekend where you get to you come and see how the sisters pray and how they live and how they interact with each other. One of the main experiences, though, that drew me, the first stepping stones that drew me to religious life, was after college. I became a Jesuit volunteer through the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, and it was through this experience of living in an intentional community, praying together, talking about social justice issues, that gave me a little window of seeing what religious life could be like, and that was one of the touchstone moments that led me to religious life.
Yeah, I think being active, finding some way to explore what you feel called to do, whatever that might be. You wouldn't commit to marry a stranger. You get to know somebody, you talk to them, you share times together, and joining different organizations that are sponsored by the community is very helpful for that. The Companions program that I mentioned before, and the Sisters of St. Francis themselves now have a volunteer program, so that would be another option. But develop every aspect of your life. Be a well-rounded person, explore and look and know yourself really well, and that'll be a big step in guiding you into a right calling in life.
In the application and entrance and formation process, it's been so helpful to be able to meet with sisters regularly. In discernment, I was meeting with a vocation director every month, as a novice meeting with a candidate minister, and now as a novice meeting with our novice minister. And so these women have truly helped me in my discernment process, both listening to me, answering my questions, and also learning from their stories. They've been such an incredible witness to that. And also the idea that knowing that when you enter, that isn't the final commitment. I've taken so much time to get to know myself better and to foster my relationship with God so much more than I ever have. And this experience has truly been a blessing, and seeing where God is calling me.
Yes, I'd agree. The application process was involved and had a lot of detail to it, and it was a little daunting at first, but it wasn't hard in that sense. It was a way to assist you in getting to know yourself better and learning what the community would expect from you and what you had a right to expect from the community, and how to go about that, and who could be of assistance to you, and what kinds of things you might want to consider and weigh as you tried to make that decision. But it was a beginning, and not a final commitment, you know. So it was a great way to start out.